Wow, I was curious about something, and I tell you, a very disrespectful attitude from the Canada Post young woman, very tall, who uh, who actually came out already where you could see on her face like she didn't want to be interrupted from what she was doing in the back, which I assume would be work. Maybe it wasn't. And so I asked a question. I was just wanting to know the ratio of people doing deliveries with a Canada Post vehicle and their own private independent contractor vehicles. It was pretty simple, but she kept using different language. She kept eventually assuming I wasn't understanding. And at the end, I asked one last time after. I said, "Oh no, I don't want to keep asking." I said, "If you're asking me how long I've been in this area, yeah, it pretty much tells me that you're going to keep wasting my time. Pretty much is what I'm thinking." I said, "I'll let it go," but I asked one more time after. And then she said, "Oh, if you want to apply for a job, just go." So again, it wasn't even that hard a question, but the attitude is somehow justified from her job to the me being either a newcomer or even just a civilian, not a postal worker. I don't know. Very disrespectful and very ridiculous. And I also found that I'm right in front of you. I told her, but I don't exist unless I get a postal box here to receive services here. And she said for 3 months it's $80-something, which again defeats the purpose of the discounts. So it's a shame. It's a shame that the people primates are unable to use the higher functions of their brains, and of course it does not exclude public servants or people that politicians claim, or most people want to believe is they are competent in their job, because people don't want to believe that when they're dropping off their kids somewhere or their loved ones go to the hospital that there's incompetent people there. They just can't handle that, because it would require them turning into critical thinkers, culture repairers, and that's overwhelming to a species that has indulged in intellectual laziness for so long. So yeah. So let me ask you something about parenting, guys. Do you know that there are people in every generation who will criticize how poorly their parents have done as parents? And often it's very valid. But right now, I've never heard of anyone who would have admitted that they were worse than their own parents, especially as compared to modernity, which means they would have had to work harder than their parents, not to be worse than their parents as parents. So I've never heard of this, somebody admitting to this. They turned out to be, and they either think it's too late or they're now going to work on it, whatever it is, worse than their own parents, if there's objectivity. So does that mean there isn't anybody? Then how do we explain the decline of society, in the sense that if everybody did a better job with their kids in the last few generations, wouldn't society be a better place that isn't currently on the decline when it comes to, not everything being a very fragile house of cards at every level of society's various kind of subcultures, such as medicine or education or public service or whatever? So does that also qualify as an example of how HsD is accelerating and a spread? Because HsD again claims that your domesticated brains are incapable of connecting to the reality of who you are, how you act, and the impact that it has on your cultures, and how to measure that culture either evolves or devolves or stagnates and stays the same, while modernity is linked to other cultures. So if a culture devolves or even stagnates, and it would be interconnected with, a majority that evolves, which is not the case, then it would be at a disadvantage as well. So now we've got every culture devolving. I've never heard of somebody saying, I turned out to be a bad teacher, or I turned out to be a bad mental health worker, or a bad parent. So what does that say about HsD and my theory? Of course, it's another example that is measurable, whether you guys wanted to admit to it or not. Now, if anything I say, let's say I say like 100 points on HSD, and if only one is true, and I don't know, I think you'll want somebody else to do the research to measure this, and then you're going to hate them if they give the results. But if even one of them is true, you do realize that that makes you the cruelest species of all species towards your own offspring and the future legacy that you are leaving for them.